The US and Israel have launched a joint attack on Iran, with President Donald Trump declaring major combat operations are underway.
In particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon, and we can't take it anymore.
The world woke up to a reality that geopolitical analysts, military strategists, and Iranian commanders all said could never happen. For years, Iran buried its most critical infrastructure deep underground, poured billions into hardened tunnels, reinforced concrete bunkers, and air defense networks specifically engineered to defeat American air power. Iranian generals stood at podiums and told the world their facilities were untouchable. Their scientists constructed missile production lines beneath mountains. Their commanders moved command centers hundreds of feet below the surface. And for years, that strategy worked as a deterrent, buying time, forcing diplomacy, convincing adversaries that military action carried too high a cost. Then 4 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers took off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, and everything Iran built to survive American bombs became their tomb instead. This is not a story about a limited airstrike. This is not a story about a warning shot or a show of force designed to send a diplomatic message. This is a story about the complete, systematic, and permanent dismantlement of Iran's strategic weapons infrastructure, executed with a precision and scale that no other military on Earth could replicate. Every facility Iran built to threaten American forces, every missile site constructed to hold Israel at risk, every underground bunker designed to survive the most powerful conventional bombs ever created, all of it targeted, all of it hit, all of it burning. Exactly what weapons were used and exactly why Iran never had a chance. Start with the fundamental question that defines this entire operation. How do you destroy a weapons program that was specifically engineered to be indestructible? Iran did not simply dig holes and call them bunkers. Iranian engineers studied American air power for decades. They studied the strikes on Iraq, studied the precision munitions that destroyed Saddam Hussein's infrastructure, and then they built something different. They went deeper. They poured more concrete. They added more reinforcement. They buried missile production lines under hundreds of feet of rock and earth. They built redundant systems, multiple entrances, compartmentalized sections designed to survive even catastrophic breaches in adjacent areas. Their entire strategic doctrine was built around the assumption that depth equals survival. 4 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers just proved that assumption wrong in the most definitive way possible. The mission profile itself represents a capability that belongs to exactly one country on Earth. 4 aircraft flying non-stop from the continental United States, across the Atlantic Ocean, over the Mediterranean Sea, into Iranian airspace, executing precision strikes on hardened underground targets, and then flying home without a single Iranian surface-to-air missile being launched in their direction. 30 hours in the air, thousands of miles from any forward operating base, no advanced staging, no pre-positioned aircraft, no warning that gave Iranian air defense commanders even a moment to react. The bombers were detected by air traffic controllers over the Strait of Gibraltar on their way home. Mission complete. Targets destroyed. Iranian underground missile site still burning beneath the surface. Iran found out the attack happened when the bombs detonated. That is the definition of strategic surprise executed at an operational scale nobody outside American military planners believed was possible. The tanker support operation that made this mission possible deserves its own recognition, because without it, none of this happens. 5 KC-46 Pegasus tankers departed Lajes Air Base in the Azores, one potentially serving as a spare, launching with a minimum 30-second interval between aircraft. 5 massive tankers. 30-second separation, maximum efficiency, minimum vulnerability during the departure phase. These tankers position themselves over the Atlantic to intercept the B-2s during their crossing, pumping fuel into aircraft that would spend the next several hours penetrating some of the most contested airspace on the planet. Additional tanker support staged from Naval Air Station Rota in Spain, creating a refueling chain that stretched from the eastern Atlantic all the way toward the Mediterranean. The communications discipline displayed throughout this operation extended even to radio call signs, with KC-46 using the Reach designation while the B-2s used the PRU call sign. A deliberate deception that made any signal intelligence collection sound like routine tanker operations rather than the largest bunker-busting mission in military history. If you are watching this and you have not subscribed yet, hit that button right now because the level of detail we break down on this channel does not exist anywhere else. Now understand what weapons the B2s actually carried, and why the choice of munitions tells you everything about American strategic thinking. The June 2025 Operation Midnight Hammer employed 7 B2s carrying 14 GBWAS-57 massive ordnance penetrators, each weighing 30,000 pounds. Designed to punch through 300 feet of rock and earth to destroy nuclear enrichment centrifuge halls buried under mountains at Fordo and Natanz. Those facilities require the most powerful conventional bombs ever built because their entire purpose was uranium enrichment, a process requiring deep, stable, radiation-contained environments that can only be destroyed by weapons capable of reaching extreme depths. Operation Epic Fury targeted something different. Underground ballistic missile sites do not require the same depth as nuclear enrichment facilities. Missile production lines, launch infrastructure, storage bunkers, command centers for ballistic missile operations, these facilities are hardened but not buried at nuclear depth. The GBU-31 V3 JETDAM with the BLU-109 bunker buster warhead is the perfect instrument for this target set. A hardened steel penetrating casing designed specifically to punch through reinforced concrete and detonate inside bunkers rather than on the surface. Dozens of these weapons, each weighing 2,000 pounds, dropped from 4 B2s across multiple underground missile sites. The nuclear program was already destroyed in June. This strike eliminated Iran's ability to retaliate with the missiles they were counting on to threaten American forces and hold the region at risk. The simultaneous naval component of this operation created a second axis of destruction that hit Iran where its regime feels pain most directly. U.S. Navy submarines operating in the Arabian Sea launched Tomahawk land attack missiles that crossed Iranian territory and struck Karg Island, the crude oil export terminal that processes 1.8 million barrels of Iranian oil per day. 1.8 million barrels every single day. That terminal represents the financial heartbeat of the Iranian regime, the revenue stream that funds the IRGC, that pays for proxy militias in Yemen and Lebanon and Iraq, that underwrites the entire network of destabilizing activity Iran has conducted across the Middle East for decades. Post-strike imagery showed the entire export complex consumed by multiple simultaneous fires, thick black smoke columns rising high enough to be visible from orbital satellites. The economic shock is immediate and severe. 1.8 million barrels per day removed from global crude markets in a single night. Iran's revenue gone. Proxy funding severed. The financial architecture that sustained the Iranian strategic ambitions across an entire region burned down to the waterline in fires that nobody in Tehran could extinguish. Bandar Abbas received the same treatment from a different axis. The naval base's underground fuel storage bunkers, constructed specifically to survive air attack, were breached by Tomahawk strikes that caused catastrophic structural failures. Thermal imaging confirmed destruction of approximately 60% of stored fuel reserves. Tunnels connecting storage sections flooded from ruptured fuel lines, turning hardened military infrastructure into inaccessible debris fields. The compounding effect of sanctions that prevent Iran from accessing specialized repair equipment and the ongoing air dominance that prevents any meaningful reconstruction effort means those fuel reserves are not coming back in any operationally relevant time frame. Iran's navy sits in harbor. Aircraft cannot sustain meaningful operations. Ground forces require fuel that no longer exists in the quantities needed to project power. Destroying a country's fuel reserve is not just a tactical achievement. It is a strategic paralysis that compounds every other limitation Iran now faces. The Israeli component of this operation demonstrated the depth of coordination between American and Israeli strike planning and the complementary nature of their respective target sets. Israeli Air Force F-35 Ayadir aircraft carrying Spice 2000 precision glide bombs struck the Arak heavy water reactor complex and the Isfahan uranium conversion facility simultaneously with American strikes on missile sites. Arak and Isfahan eliminated. The uranium conversion pathway that feeds enriched material into weapons development destroyed on the same night that America was obliterating missile sites in the West. Israeli drones and standoff missiles reached further east to strike the Parchin Military Research Complex, the facility where Iranian scientists conducted nuclear warhead design research for decades, and 2 solid-fuel missile production lines near Semnan that had survived previous strikes. Parchin, where Iran developed the warhead technology intended to arm those missiles. Semnan, where Iran manufactured the solid fuel propulsion systems that made their missiles more reliable and harder to detect before launch. Both gone. Every link in Iran's strategic weapons chain, from warhead design to fuel production to final assembly to launch infrastructure, targeted in coordinated salvos that left nothing functional. Like this video right now if you understand why this level of military coordination changes every strategic calculation in the region. because this channel is going to keep breaking down exactly what these strikes mean for the next phase of this conflict. Operation Epic Fury also produced documented first in American military history that will be studied in war colleges for generations. United States Central Command released imagery and video confirming the first combat employment of the Army's precision strike missile, launched from an M140-42 high-mobility artillery rocket system. The PSM represents the next generation of precision ground-based fires, a weapon system that extends the reach of ground forces into ranges previously requiring air-delivered munitions. Its first combat use against Iranian targets demonstrates American willingness to employ the most advanced systems in its inventory against real-world targets rather than preserve them for hypothetical future conflicts. Alongside the PRSM, Tomahawk land attack missiles were observed with a distinctive glossy black coating, a low observable surface treatment reminiscent of the finish applied to the AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missile. Stealth Tomahawks, low observable cruise missiles photographed in combat for the first time, adding yet another layer of penetration capability to a strike package that was already unprecedented in its composition.